Good afternoon, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started. Usually we'll have some people join in a little bit later as we get going. Unfortunately, we had to schedule it at somewhat of an off time. For some of you, it may be the first time we've got a chance to do a little quick check-in here. All right, so welcome to this check-in session for general Q&A. I am your instructor. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. All right, let's get started. And also, I usually don't announce this, but just in case I give extra credit, please make sure that I have your complete name in the chat so that I can go ahead and give you an extra few bonus points for attending. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So why are we here? First, I wanted to welcome you to the Q&A session. I wanted to take the opportunity to check in with you shortly after the midterm. I can address questions you may have about the course or psychology in general. So at any time, you can shoot me a chat message or speak up with your question or your comment. During this session tonight, I want to just briefly go over what we've done so far and where we're going for the rest of the term. I will also highlight the upcoming paper assignment to reiterate its purpose, why we have this particular purpose for this assignment. And I will conclude with a brief introduction of additional courses after general psychology that some of you may be taking in the future. So to give you a little bit of a heads up as to what to expect, so to speak. So where we have been in this course so far. We had the establishment of psychology from studies of philosophy and biology were examined. How biology serves as a great influencer of our behavior and thought processes. We discussed how our consciousness is altered and how we sense our environment around us so that we can respond appropriately to threats and dangers. We also saw how we developed mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, and even sexually as we establish our own identity as an adolescent on the verge of adulthood. We reviewed how we learn from the environment and experiences that we go through, and how we access that learning from memory when it's needed. And more recently, we looked at what motivates our behavior, what drives us to overcome obstacles and drives us to belong, to be a member of a group. Note that I did not say we learned this in chapter 1 or whatever, but hopefully this information is resting nicely in your long-term memory at this point, because you will be tested on this a little bit later as we get to the end of this particular course with our comprehensive exam. So this gives us an idea of, in a very short sense, what we have been able to cover so far in the semester up to the midterm point. And this week we begin social psychology, which we'll see where we'll be headed next. So where are we going? The establishment of psychology from the studies of history, from biology and philosophy led us to motivation, which we talked about earlier, about what motivates our behavior. And during that chapter on motivation, we saw too that there is a need for people to want to belong to a group. And this belonging to a group is very important for us. And we see from certain perspectives, it's this need to belong to a group which has allowed our species to survive and to thrive. So when we saw motivation and the need to belong, here in social psychology, we will see how we relate to and are influenced by other people. So this is an area where we expand on those ideas of other people being part of our life and how the presence of other people will change and dictate how we behave, how we will influence them and the quality of our relationships that we have with them. In today's age, we see there's a lot of issue with this going on today, with Black Lives Matter, with the assault on Asian individuals of Asian heritage. We see that social psychology focuses on those ideas. And so when we get into that this week, we'll look at such things as prejudice and discrimination as well. We also will look forward to looking at personality. In personality chapter, we will see the thing that makes you, you. okay? The way we consistently think, feel, and behave across time and a variety of situations. So, for example, when you think of your best friend, most likely you're thinking about traits or characteristics of their personality, how they think, how they feel, how they behave across a variety of situations and across time. For example, if they're at a party with you, that's going to be one set of behaviors. But if they're at church with you, it's going to be a totally different set of behaviors, or at least it should be. All right. So what we see is with personality, in essence, it's the individual. So we'll look at more of that when we get to that chapter. Then we will review what it means to have a psychological disorder, or for someone to possess a psychological disorder, where they have issues that interfere with their daily life activities and causes distress in them. So they have something that's going on in their life that makes them feel uncomfortable, it gives them anxiety, for example, and they may want it to be changed. And when they want it to be changed, that's when they may seek therapy. In the chapter we go over with therapy, we will examine how those psychological disorders may be addressed by mental health care professionals, be it the talk therapy, be it behavior modification, or taking drugs. And then we'll look at one other area that's applied area of psychology. In fact, the therapy chapter will represent the first truly applied area of psychology we will look at. The other is going to be psychology applied to work. And that's going to be represented by Appendix B of our textbook, or industrial organizational psychology, where we see how we can apply our psychological knowledge and related skills to improve the life of workers and the bottom line of an organization. And finally, as a supplement and bonus, I will provide a brief recorded module on forensic psychology, or the use of psychology in the legal system. This area has been very popular for many, many years. And although not planned for this term, I will include it as an extra credit activity. So I'll give you a blurb or a little module on forensic psychology, and there'll be a little quiz associated with it as well. And that will just count toward extra credit. All right. So that's where we are going, where we've been and where we're going. But some of you probably have some more interest in what are the things that's going to be due, I believe, sometime this week or a little bit after. And that's going to be the current event paper assignment. Before I get into the spiel on that, I'm going to pause real quickly, see, are there any questions or comments anyone has at this time? You can just send it through a chat message, that'll be fine. There's very few of us here. Send it to a chat message or speak up if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions right now, just say you're good, and I can keep going.
I'm good.
All right, cool. All right, so when we talk about the current event paper assignment, remember as well is that I went into certain details already, and that's in a video clip called Paper Instructions, and that is still located on your Canvas site. So if you happen to miss it, please go and review it again and see if that answers any questions that you may have about it, okay? Now, I did not want to have a full APA style paper for you guys this term, so I went a different route, and this is that particular route. So let me give you the rationale behind this current event paper assignment activity. First, one, we wanted to recognize, get you guys to be able to recognize how psychology is a part of everyday life by seeing it in events of the day, the current events. And of course, we see this all over the place. People are stressing out by how long we've been under lockdown for almost over a year now since the pandemic. We see issues going on with race relations as well. All these things are things that we touch on in psychology. And so that should be one of the more easiest things for you to accomplish as part of this activity, is to truly recognize how psychology is a part of our everyday life. Number two, to demonstrate your ability to summarize, paraphrase, and cite the works of others. This is one of the key ones here. In fact, this is probably one of the main things that I'm doing for this particular activity, meaning that you have to go out there and find a current event, something in a newspaper article, a journal article, or whatever, that has some relationship to psychology as well as to the events going on. And you have to be able to summarize what that article is communicating to the reader. You have to be able to paraphrase in such a way information so that you can put it in your short brief paper and be able to cite it, so that you paraphrase what someone else has said and you give the correct cite, so that if someone wanted to get to the source of what you cited, they could know how to do that. And number three, and this is also very key, relate the ideas and concepts in your current event article or whatever the source is to ideas covered in the course or the textbooks. Meaning, if you found some wonderful article about people having to deal with the stress of being under lockdown for so long because of the pandemic, well, you want to be able to summarize that type of stuff very succinctly in your paper, but also be able to relate it to an idea, a theory, or concept, or a place in our psychology textbook, dealing with stress and those types of things. So those are the key activities that I'm looking for: being able to recognize, one, that psychology is all around us; two, be able to demonstrate how you can summarize, paraphrase, and cite the works of others; and then three, be able to relate those things in your current event article to things that we've discussed discussed as part of this course of the textbook and through lecture. Okay, all right. Now, the other thing that I want to make sure we understand, and I mentioned this really briefly, I didn't want to do a full-fledged APA style paper. And with APA, it's a certain style of writing. Okay, the American Psychological Association, which we mentioned at the very beginning of this course, they produce every so often a publication manual, meaning these are the instructions about how to write papers. And if you have not written a paper in this particular style, you probably will in the near future. Definitely if you're in psychology, and if you take any other psychology course or another social science course, because many social science courses, they may not be psychology, but they may use the APA formatting. So what the APA publication manual does, it provides basic and detailed guidelines to the readers so they know what to expect and where to get key information. If you've ever had an opportunity to look at a journal article that's in the APA style or format, you'll see that it goes into a very systematic way all the time, meaning that you know where to look if you're looking for a certain type of information. And that's one of the benefits of following a certain type of format and writing. We always know where to go to get certain type of information. So again, if you haven't had an opportunity to write an APA style paper, you probably will in the near future, particularly those who are in a psychology program. Now, what I wanted to highlight here is that in this section, this module that's on your Canvas site, APA resource videos, for APA for Academic Guide, what you have are short little snippets that were done that focus on key aspects of APA formatting. We have APA citations, we have APA references, how to avoid plagiarism, how to paraphrase, and even how to quote. So those videos there are there for you to review, take notes on, really learn from them the best that you can, because that will be one of the best things I can do for you if you get out of this course and have at least a stronger foundation in APA. All right. And so again, what I wanted to do with this current event assignment was just to give you one aspect of it. And that would be the aspect of being able to read somebody's work, to be able to summarize it, be able to paraphrase what they're saying, and then to be able to cite it properly. That's one of the key ideas. So along with that, I want to make sure you understand too that I will be adding some additional resources to this particular Canvas site for you guys before the semester ends. That will be some great takeaways that you can take with you, little summary guides I found on the internet that may be very beneficial to you if you do have to have an APA paper in your future class or a future endeavor, okay? All right, the other thing I want to remind you of, you may have noticed it, I know some people in class already found it. I haven't made it too public yet, but there's extra credit assignments throughout, and one of this is the APA citation quiz. So after you view the video on APA citations. You can take a quiz, and that will be extra points for you. I'll make sure that that link is more available to you, so you can easily see it. I think the only way that you can see it now, if you go to the syllabus page on our Canvas site and you scroll all the way to the bottom, it's hanging there by itself, APA citation quiz. Okay. All right. Any questions so far before we move on to the next thing? And I will take that silence as that we're good. All right.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, sure.
I do have a question.
Sure.
I found the APA resources that you were just discussing.
Uh-huh.
But you also said previously that there was a video on the paper, current events paper.
Yes.
Where is that located on?
Okay. Let me open it up here. What class are you in, by the way? D2 or V1?
Mackenzie, do you know? I think we're V1.
V1? Okay. Let me go to V1 real quick. Let me switch to share my other screen here. I think I can do that. All right. You guys should be seeing the Canvas site right now.
I'm sorry. I'm D2.
D2, okay, that's what I was thinking. All right, so if you go to D2, let's see if I can find it. Okay, under paper topic resources, I believe under paper instructions, you see my hand here?
I do.
Okay, all right, paper instructions, and there you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem, no problem. All right, technology works sometimes. That's outstanding. Okay, let me switch back here. Here we go. All right. So again, so we have that information available to you. So I've laid out some of the details and logistics about that so you can get familiar with it. The reason I'm harping on this is that I've taught general psychology for many years now, but one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of students need more and more work with the writing aspect of it. And some of it really, when I mark papers down, for example, it's the basics. And sometimes it's the basics that kill them. They worry about the basics, but the basics are relatively simple if you just get some familiarity with what it should look like. All right, so that's where we are. Don't forget about the APA for citation quiz. I'll try to make that more visible for you so that you can easily watch it and be able to get that extra credit out of the way for you. But for the most part, both the classes I'm teaching this semester, you guys are doing relatively well when it comes to your exams. In fact, the only little dip I did see in performance was with the midterm activity. So that was the only dip I saw. Most of the averages are around 90, 93, 94, 95, but your midterm activity did dip a little bit to like 84, something like that. All right, so don't forget, this is going to have a final exam, which will be cumulative. All right, now, the other thing I wanted to communicate with you, which is sort of wrapping the basic ideas up here, is just that there are going to be other classes in psychology that you guys may take. One of the key things that I want to emphasize here is that Psych 210, General Psychology, this course that we're in now, it is a gateway class, meaning unlike many other disciplines, for psychology, before you can take any of the other psychology classes, normally we force you to go through Psych 210 or a general psychology course. Once you've passed the general psychology course, then all the other psychology courses open up to you. So this course is sort of a gateway. If you don't successfully get out of it, then all the other psychology courses usually are not available to you. So getting out of general psych is something that can open up other classes that you can take as well. Now, I'll take the opportunity, I may have mentioned this during the orientation months previous, but in case I didn't, General Psych is a huge course in of itself, because what it attempts to do, in a really simple sense, is to introduce you to the entirety of the field of psychology. It's a really huge survey course. In fact, for years and years, when I taught this decades ago, General Psychology was divided up into two courses, General Psych 1 and General Psych 2. All right. Here, for the most part, the last 3 decades, I've seen it just be General Psych know one or two general psych, which means that most professors have to skip or miss some chapters so that they can get through enough of the material to give you a good, strong foundation. So the same has happened here. For example, we did not cover in this particular go around the chapter on stress. Okay, so let's look at some of the other classes that we normally see people take. Normally, those who are in nursing or in education, for example, they may move to take Psych 331, which is developmental psychology. And think of developmental psychology as an extension of our chapter 4 in our textbook, Development Across the Lifespan. So it'll be more of that. Also, we see people may take Psych 360, which is social psychology, and which is going to be an expansion of the chapter that we are going to be talking about this week. Some of you may have already seen some of the pre-canned lecture videos for my synchronized class. I'll be lecturing with you guys tomorrow on those particular topics. So those are some of the courses that open up to you when you finish your 210 course. There are many other courses too. I just wanted to highlight two that I am familiar with and that I particularly tend to like. I also wanted to make sure that you are aware of a few new things that we have in our psychology department. There are new concentrations in psychology. And what a concentration is really is a group of courses that once you take them, you can sort of be known to have a foundation in that particular topic. And sometimes that's really good for students who have a certain type of interest and they have a concentration that suits them. And also when you are out looking for work, sometimes having a certain concentration that is aligned with the type of work you're looking to get a job in is also quite beneficial as well. So let me talk to you real briefly here about these concentrations real quickly. We have the health psychology concentration, and both these concentrations take 12 hours. And if you're in a psychology program, that shouldn't be too much of an issue with you. So health psychology, and some of the courses are, or the courses are Psych 300, which is stress and management and wellness. And again, we have a stress chapter that we did not go through this particular term that's in your textbook, so you get some sort of idea as to what that really covers. Then we have Psych 345, which is positive psychology, and that's really related to some of the humanistic psychology that we talked about previously in the beginning of this course, about they looked at how people flourish, how they are successful, and things of that nature. And so positive psychology takes that focus up as well. And then we have health psychology, the namesake of this particular concentration, which examines health-related issues in relation to numerous psychological factors. For example, the social environment in your health, those types of things, so they can look at a more holistic picture of health as it relates to all the psychological things that we've covered and will cover in this course, for example. And then we have Psych 380, behavioral modification. And this is really our chapter that we covered on learning. And particularly, we looked at the chapter covered on learning focused on B.F. Skinner, operant conditioning, positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. These are the types of things that we see here. In fact, I've had a few students I've had to write recommendation letters for. With pleasure, I wrote them for local areas that do some work utilizing behavior modification. Usually in the employment world, you'll see it as ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis / behavior modification. All right, so that's the health psychology concentration. And then we have the work and organizational psychology concentration for those of you who may be more business or entrepreneurial minded. Here we focus on Psych 350, which is industrial organizational psychology. It's the other course that I teach. Also, it's sort of like an expansion, not exactly, but sort of like an expansion of Appendix B, which we'll be covering in a couple of weeks, which is psychology applied to work. And then we have underneath there Psych 390, which is psychological tests and measurements. If you've ever taken some test for employment, for getting selected for a position or getting hired. What this particular course does, it talks to you about the theory about behind testing, about tests that people take for selection or for medical mental assessments. It gives you sort of like the nitty gritty about how that's done and what these tests actually do tell us about individuals. Now, this particular concentration is not by psychology alone. It's done in conjunction with the business department. And so we see 2 psychology courses, IO and psych test and measurements, and also 2 management courses. Management 415, which is HR staffing and development, and Management 420, which is organizational behavior, how people interact within a large organization. So that gives you some idea of some of the ways in which we can, once you finish 210, where you can go for the future. If you are interested in any of these concentrations, either health psychology or work in organizational psychology, there's a name here, Amin Abdul Khalik. He is the academic advisor for the Department of Psychology. He's wonderful. I have his email address listed there as well as his phone number. Now, I knew this would be a short session, and it looks like it will be, but I'm going to open up the floor to you few brave souls who are out there to see if you have any questions or comments while I'm here that I can try to answer them for you. Okay, anyone? No brave souls out there. Okay. So are we all good then?
Yeah, you've answered the questions I had.
All right, great. Outstanding then. All right, and I apologize particularly to my D2 group who I haven't had an opportunity to really speak to with that much this semester. Hopefully we'll have at least one more session that we can do to try to wrap things up with. Okay, so if there are no other questions, if you think of something after we get out here today, please email me, okay, or something that you drop me a line, give me a phone call if it's a phone call worthy type of thing, and then we'll try to fix that up for you, okay? So if there's no other questions or comments, you guys are free to go, and please thank you for showing up tonight. Have a great rest of the week and weekend. All right, bye.
You too, thanks.